Hello, I am Nathan, and this is Thunder Up Talk. Today, I am going to rank each individual Thunder player on their impact on the team. So, strictly during the playoffs, so their playoff impact for the Thunder. And then I'm also going to talk about five of my favorite stats that I kind of found while doing a little bit of homework. So, I will jump right into it. So obviously, the first couple I think are pretty obvious. I won't go into too much detail. It's pretty straightforward. I think later, as you get down the list, you can kind of have some debate for sure. So obviously, the first player, Shea, the guy averaged 29.9 points per game throughout the playoffs, throughout the entirety of the playoffs. Basically, 30 points a game, 6.5 assists, and 1.7 steals. He was great, by far the best player. There's no chance that we win the finals without him, obviously. Um, Number two is Jalen Williams, and again, it's not even close at all. He averaged 21 points per game, and he's so versatile on the defensive end. Uh, he was just great. He by far our second best player, in my opinion, um, especially throughout the playoffs for sure. He had a 40-point game in the finals. He was just incredible. Now, number three, this is where I start to just kind of start to think, who do I want to put here? Do I want to put Chet here? Do I want to consider Caruso? Do I want to put Lou Dort? And honestly, it kind of came down for me between Chet and Lou Dort. Lou Dort's case, obviously, he guards the best perimeter player all throughout the playoffs. He had some super big moments and games, especially against Denver. The game where he hit all those threes in a row that really saved us. Um, but as I dug into it, it really came down to Chet, and it became kind of obvious to me. For starters, he was the only other player outside of J Dub and Shea that scored in the double digits. He averaged 15.2 points per game. Everyone else was 9 points or under throughout the playoffs. And then he was our leading rebounder. So he was our third leading scorer, our leading rebounder. And of course, he averaged 1.9 blocks per game, by far the leader in that category. But to me, the most important stat was the fact that he led the team in plus minus. So he had the highest plus minus throughout the playoffs with a positive 169. So when he was on the court, they were in the plus 169 points in total. Shea was a close second at 166. But to me, that just showed, even with Chet's struggles, he shot not good at all, 46% from the field. Um, he still made a huge impact for this team, being the guy that's anchoring the defense. So I put Chet at three. Although at first, in my mind, it was kind of close, but ultimately, I think it's pretty obvious that he was the third most impactful player on the team. Four, I mentioned him already, uh, is Lou, and I put him ahead of um, Kaysen, or ahead of Alex Caruso, just because he was the guy from the get-go guarding the best player, the best perimeter player, most of the time the best player on the team all throughout the playoffs. And again, he just had huge moments of, hitting threes when they really mattered. Um, and then number five, I do have Alex Caruso. He had such loud moments that it feels kind of weird putting him at five for the fifth most impactful player on the team. Um, I kind of think even in the finals, there were a couple moments where we would stall and wouldn't even score on the offensive end, and he would go and get us a bucket, like kind of out of nowhere, but it was just like his veteran savvy leadership that he was just like, we gotta get something here. And a couple of times he just did that. And it was extremely, extremely impactful. We absolutely do not win a championship without him, in my opinion. I've kind of mentioned this before. I think if Giddy's on this team and we don't have Caruso, I don't think we get past Denver. That game seven where Mark pulled out the trick out of the hat and just put Caruso on Jokic for a couple of for a couple of quarters. Yeah, it was awesome to see. So I've got Caruso at 5, and then number 6 I've got Isaiah Hartenstein. He didn't really have a great playoffs in my mind, but he was still pretty solid. He still averaged 8 points a game, 7.5 rebounds per game throughout the entirety of the playoffs. And those stats aren't like just super crazy good, but he was just a solid guy to have, anchoring the defense when Chet wasn't in there. And he's got a pretty interesting stat that I'll kind of talk about at the end as well. That kind of surprised me. Number 7, I've got Keeson Wallace. And again, his stats aren't overwhelming. He only averaged 5.6 points per game, didn't shoot particularly well, but he did average 1.4 steals per game. I actually watched a video last night. It was like a 36-minute video showing all the highlights of the playoffs. And one thing that stood out to me from the get-go were the amount of steals and fast breaks that Cason Wallace was involved in. And you know, I think as the playoffs went deeper and deeper, he became a little less effective. I didn't think he was great in the finals, but again, he's so young and he was very impactful defensively, sticky hands, getting a lot of steals, and I think he had a lot of just energetic plays in transition with dunks. There's only a couple of guys that can really go down the court and kind of yam one on somebody, just post or somebody, and dunk on somebody. Jalen's kind of one of those guys, but Cason Wallace is kind of surprising in that way. He can dunk on some guys. There's a poster where he dunked on Jokic, and that was just awesome to relive and see. So number 7 is Cason Wallace. To me, Cason is the last guy that, in my opinion, I think he has to be on the team or we don't win the finals. I think every other guy, we could have taken them off the roster with everyone else still, and we still win the finals. So that top 7 is by far the most important 7 on the team, in my opinion. Um, Number 8, we have Aaron Wiggins. He didn't play particularly great either, but he still averaged 6 points a game throughout the playoffs, averaging 14 minutes per game. And he had a couple of moments too where he literally uh, kind of carried us a little bit for a quarter or two here on the offensive end. It didn't happen very often, but it did happen. Number 9, I've got Jalen Williams from Arkansas. I thought he did a really good job, particularly in the Denver series, guarding Jokic as well. There were some pretty key moments where, he was just filling in moments to help out our other bigs, and he did really well. And a really impressive stat with him, he actually shot 36% from three, which oddly enough made him the third best shooter for the entire playoffs on our team. And that will be a stat that I kind of talk about at the end as well. Um, Number 10, I've got Isaiah Joe. He didn't play particularly well. He still shot really well from three throughout the entirety of the playoffs. But he just couldn't make the impact that he did throughout the regular season, especially as we went into the Western Conference and finals. But that's okay. Having a regular season player is still super important to have on this team. Number 11, I've got Kenrich Williams. He just didn't play a ton. He played 16 of the 23 playoff games. When he did play, you don't worry about him one bit. He is like the floor, but he's like the safest floor. He's going to be a positive on the court. He's going to do what's expected. He's going to play hard. And then number 12, AJ Mitchell. He just was recovering from injury. He only played 12 of the 23 games. Just wasn't super impactful. And then, of course, the other guys, Dylan Jones, Usman Jang, they just really didn't have hardly any impact at all. I do want to jump to 5 of my favorite playoff stats. So number 1, there were only three players who averaged double-digit scoring throughout the playoffs. Obviously, the top three are Shea, Jalen, and Chet. I just thought it was interesting that no one else scored at least 10 points per game. Shea averaged 29, Jalen 21, and Chet 15. The next closest is Alex Caruso at 9. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know how that really stacks up with um, other championship winning teams. I would assume there would be at least four or five kind of in the double digits, but that's just what it was. This too was also very interesting. There were only two players that averaged more than 30 minutes per game. And I thought that was, you know, I figured most starters, four or five guys would be averaging at least 30 minutes per game, but only Shea at 37 and only J Dub at 34 minutes per game were over that 30-minute mark. Chet came in really close at 29.8, but wasn't at 30. Um, I already talked about this a little bit. Chet led the team in plus minus with a positive 169. Again, I just think that's super fascinating. I feel like everyone kind of thinks he had a just a terrible playoffs. Like he just didn't play well at all. And it's because it was loud. His misses were loud. He didn't look quite like the old Chet on the offensive end. But I think he was just recovering from a almost catastrophic injury that he could have not come back, I think. There may have been some guys that maybe wouldn't have responded as quickly as he did, playing the tail end of the season and in the playoffs. If I had to guess, I bet he was only at 90% max of his true self. And a lot of that would be recovery, but also just being in playing shape and all of that as well. So uh, Chet was incredible on the defensive end of the court. And there's no chance we win the championship without him. Um, I thought this was interesting as well. In my mind, Isaiah Joe played terrible in the playoffs. And I think that was just because we didn't see a whole lot of him. But he and Alex Caruso led the team in 3-point shooting percentage. They both shot 41%. No one else came close at all to shooting 40% from three. And in fact, I kind of alluded to it earlier in the video. Then the third best shooter from three was Jalen Williams, a big, which is just really kind of funny to me. And it makes sense. We as a team shot horribly from the field. We as a team shot horribly from three. So I was just happy that we had a couple of guys that shot over 40% from three. Uh, I was just kind of surprised that it was Caruso in there with Joe. Um, and then my number one favorite stat from the playoffs: only one guy shot over 50% from the field. I'll take a pause, let you think about it. Who do you think it is? It was Alex. No, it was not Alex Caruso. It was Isaiah Hartenstein. So it's iHeart, and he shot 61% from the field. Again, this kind of shocked me. In my mind, I remember him kind of missing a lot of the little floaters that he was making all throughout the season. One thing that I do think helped his percentage were a lot of the big to big baseline alley oops. So Chet found him a lot. Other guys found him a lot too, as he was cutting down the baseline and would get quite a few pretty easy dunks. So I think that helped his numbers a lot. But what's wild about that stat is no one really comes particularly close, at least the top guys, to 50% from the field. Shea was 46. For him, that's bad. Jalen Williams, 45. Pretty bad. He had a hurt hand, but still not good. Chet was 46. And then it gets really ugly with guys like Aaron Wiggins, who only shot 39 from the field, and Cason Wallace, 42% from the field. So, all that to say, the NBA should be scared. If we get three guys who shoot over 50% from the field in the next playoffs, like, we're probably beating some teams in 5 games. And I think we are for sure winning the NBA Finals again. So, that was my biggest takeaway. If I had one big takeaway, it should be the league should be scared. If we shoot remotely close to how we shot in the regular season as a team, especially Shea, Jalen, and Chet, it's going to be over. And I think we should expect this team to win another championship or at least get to the Western Conference Finals. Um, that's pretty much all I've got for today. Again, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you later. Thunder up.